I actually don't spend enough time doing the actual thing that I teach, like practice what I preach, bro. That's what I should be doing.
Let me take you behind the scenes at a gig where I did sound and I did lighting. So let's have a look at where this actual gig is. St. John's Church here in Nottingham. So after finding out that the gig is going to be at a church, here are some of my initial reservations. The first is going to be acoustics. Old church, concrete walls, tall ceilings, with no acoustic treatment. It's going to sound pretty echoey. The second one is power. Where can I access it from? Is it going to be reliable? And is it going to be in the places where I need it most? 3, this is going to be location. And what I actually mean here is where am I going to operate from? How am I going to get sound to and from the stage? And where am I going to place my lights? Because I can't rig in this church. And all of those first 3 initial reservations are going to inform what equipment am I going to bring. So I started to make some preparations. This is my channel list I put together once I'd got the information from Matt, the promoter, and I knew what the band needed. I just started to populate this so I know what channels were going to be used for which band. I then made a rough room plan, so I know that this was going to be where the staging area was. It's where my audience were going to live on each side, and then just in front of this font here is where I'm going to set up the 2 desks. So I'm going to have the mixing desk on one side, the lighting desk on the other, and this is where I'll be operating from. And I'm going to set up my front lights just so we can see the people on stage either side of the audience. So I'm going to have some of the pix rolls on the side of the stage, and I'm going to put my 2 jet spots at the back. So what I'm checking here is that all my outputs are routed correctly and they're going to where they say they are. But what I'm also checking is for any volume discrepancies. And what I notice is that one side is louder than the other. And so I'm going to go and check here. The PA system I have brought is an active EV system. And on the back of the units there is a mode switch that you can put them into, and you can attenuate some of the volume. So I'm just checking that they're all in the same mode. And what I did notice that one side had been attenuated by almost 20 dB. So I'm just going to go level them out to make sure they're all matching, and then come back and check that it's all working. So I like to get a lot of the PA system sort of tuning bits out of the way as soon as possible before any sort of sound checks happen. I want to make sure that, okay, I'm happy with how my PA is sounding, and then move on to the next step, which is me setting up a microphone. I'm going to start to ring out monitors. One, two, yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. So starting with the headline act first, I begin sound checks. And what I'm doing here is just making sure people are happy with their monitor mix, and then I can save those snapshots to the mixing desk. One thing I'm always telling my students they need to go and do is go on stage during the sound check and listen to the monitors. Not every performer or artist who is on the stage are going to be super technically minded or have an ear for what they actually want. So in that scenario, you are the expert. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just going on stage and just having a listen. Okay, what does it sound like? And trying to put myself into the shoes of the actual performer. Does it sound right? Sometimes people who are not confident, they'll say that they don't want something, but if you can hear that you could improve it or there is room for it to be improved, do it. So sometimes it's about being proactive versus being reactive. Another useful tip is sometimes if you can hear that the performer is singing slightly out of key or hard to pitch themselves against the music, an early indication is that their monitor might not be loud enough, or they may not be able to hear themselves loud enough to pitch against the music. And that's what I noticed here. This is Matt. He's the guy that booked me for the gig. He's also the promoter and the producer for the opening act. He knows the music way better than I do, and so he's tweaking some of the EQ just to make it sound how he wants it to. And whilst he's doing that, I program lights.
Emma Thorpe, ladies and gentlemen, it's Emma's birthday.
During the intermission, I just spend this time to do a little bit more programming, trying to add a bit more dynamics to some of the stage lighting, especially now that the ambient light is dimming down as it's getting later on into the evening, and the theatrical light that we can see on stage is a lot more apparent now. I just want to bring it to life a bit more. Okay, let me just quickly interrupt. One of the things I was thinking especially when the headline act came on, and he was doing this looping thing with the cello and he was adding some effects, and I started to hear some of that feedback kind of coming through. I thought what would be really useful here is a multi-band, some sort of multi-band processing, whether that would be an EQ, ideally EQ or compression, but when like a lot of that energy starts to build up, especially in that mid-range, that lower mid-range section, I could start to hear feedback building because there's more and more energy kind of building up and looping around in that section. That would have been really useful on the desk. I know I jumped to some EQ and I managed to pull it out on the fly, but I think in future, what would have been really good to have when I was doing that is some sort of multi-band sort of processing. Shame I didn't really have it, but it's one of the things to add in the future. Power down. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go. Back to my house tonight. I'm just not sure what's gonna go first. I think what we'll do is, what I definitely can't fit in my car is this long trunk. So what I'm going to do is all cables are going to go in here. Which is cool. And take the PA, so it's going to be a techie one, mate. How are we going to do it? I don't know. But let's just get it packed and then we'll think about that later on.